Avid was designed by editors for editors. Editing, no matter if you're on film, if you're on digital, it's an art, and we love that you all teach it and support it. But all of the editors out there that use our software, I'm amazed at what you do with our stuff. Will AI actually find emotion? I mean, editing is tone, it's pace, it's emotion. I assume it's going to be edited as well before it gets posted. So I hope you use Avid. Maybe you don't. I don't know.
Well, this part stays in for sure.
Hey everyone, I'm Rafi Salem back with Manhattan Edit Workshop and Talking MEWShop. Today we have a very special guest from Avid, Michael Krulik. Thank you for joining us. And as always, Josh Apter and Jason Banke from Manhattan Edit Workshop. Gentlemen, please tell us about Manhattan Edit Workshop. And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff. Hit it, Josh.
All right. Well, thank you for the like and subscribe stuff. We always forget to do that because we're just having a conversation here. But in terms of a little bit of background, Michael, I think we started Manhattan Edit Workshop around the same time you started at Avid, like in the early 2000s. And we started the school with one workshop. It was a 4-week editing workshop. And it was, I think it was at the time, Avid and Final Cut, because those two tools were sort of the emerging professional tools at the time. And Avid was, that was sort of everyone's weapon of choice. And I used it extensively and I learned on it. I actually learned editing in 1993 on NYU's very first Avid machine, which it was great because it was so easy. It was so simple. It was like there weren't all of these options and everything, but we thought it was really vital to incorporate those tools into our workshop. And so we expanded it to a 6-week workshop when we introduced the Artist in Residence program. So we give an extra 2 weeks to edit your work for your reel and have as a professional editor of some note to critique their, the student work and share their own work and their own story. And Avid has always been an integral part. When the other guys introduced their version X, we'll say, it became impossible to, I like them all, by the way. I'm sort of agnostic in terms of what I think. If you can edit by carving it out of tree bark, go ahead, tell a story that way. But Avid was we went from Avid and the other guy to Avid and another one, which will all remain nameless today. But Avid has been the mainstay of the class, and I love it because it is sort of the one from which all others descend. And I always felt like, having learned Avid first, you can kind of go in, it's like, I used to describe it as like driving stick, because it really, it has all of these controls and it does what you tell it to do. And anything else is sort of based on that paradigm. So 6 weeks been going strong for a long time, and Avid's always been a part of it. And I got to tell you, aside from like that second day where some students come to me where they're like, I don't know, man, it's all kind of complicated. I'm like, this is as complicated as it will ever be. Like, just keep going, give it another. And then it just, no one has ever come back another time saying, oh my God. They're all like, yeah, you're right. And it actually, credit to our instructor, Janet Dalton, who's also our director of education. She's been involved with Avid at least as long, as not longer than I have, as a certified instructor. And, so we're really happy to have you here. You can talk about all of that history, from the Quadras to the iMacs to the PCs. I know, right? I mean, you used to just like Fonzie tap the machine to get it to work.
Exactly. No, I mean, it's been a long time. Yes, I started with Avid directly in 2002. I worked for a reseller before that, working with Avid, of course. And before that, I even worked for an Avid reseller before that on the East Coast before I moved out to LA here. But I was working on Media 100 and Softimage, DS and Postbox from Panasonic, and just all of these old nonlinear technologies. I actually started on the first PC nonlinear system when Avid was only on a Mac. I don't know if anybody remembers in the 80s, in the beginning of all this, Editing Machines Corporation, or EMC.
Editing Machines Corporation is proud to introduce the first digital offline nonlinear editing system, the EMC2, destined to revolutionize the way creative editing is done today.
I was at the trade show on the stage showing EMC. Avid was, had their booth, and it was sort of like the battle of the PC between the Mac. But of course, Avid won out, and I joined them, and Quadras and the AMP and all of the iterations of Avid along the way. It's funny. I love telling the story because, you mentioned it. You learned on Avid. Avid was designed by editors for editors. So the idea of the mark in and out point, I always like to, every now and then if I'm at a school or talking to, young up and coming editors, the idea of the keys, like the in and out point in Media Composer, are thumbnails, so they actually are shaped like thumbnails because in the days of film, you held up a piece of film and you pulled it and you said, here's the in point and here's the out point. Mm-hmm. So that's why those are the in and out on Media Composer. And I love telling the story. And a very well-known editor, I won't mention their name, I'm sure they wouldn't mind, but I love this telling the story is, in the beginning when people didn't know how to use a computer for nonlinear editing, or they were learning this new technology, they went to get a job for editing, and the people hiring said, "Oh, are you an Avid editor?" And they were like, "Oh, I love editing. Yes, I'm an Avid editor." And then they were put in front of a system and they were like, "What's this?" So the whole idea of being, avid about editing, Avid editors, it's kind of great. And it's funny because people call it the Avid when it's actually Media Composer, but the company's Avid. We make ProTools, we make Sibelius, we make Nexus, but people call it, "Hey, I'm working on the Avid." So it's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, I can't imagine anyone was super avid about working on an upright Moviola, but
It's amazing. I took a film editing class on the Moviola when I first moved out to LA because I'm like, I have to learn or at least see what it was like to do that. And I'm still, blown away that the Moviola for so long, it's a skill, it's a craft, it's an art. Just like editing. Mm-hmm. Editing, no matter if you're on film, if you're on digital, it's an art, and we love that you all teach it and support it. But, I keep on saying all of the editors out there that use our software, I'm amazed at what you do with our stuff, and we totally appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm curious because I know you said you're going to present a few things. We're always, when we have conversations with people, it ends up somehow one way or another talking about AI. And I know it's like a bad word for some people, it's an exciting word for some people, but it'd be great to know like what we know, but like for people that don't know, like what is Avid doing to like incorporate that and yet also keep the user experience, you know what I mean? Like the artistic side of the human folks and without overstepping.
AI, what's this AI you talk about? Yes, it's always top of mind these days. Our script sync and phrase find that we have in Media Composer is AI powered. We actually use AI inside the software to do all of the searching and scripting and things like that. But we're also incorporating partners that have AI technology as well. We're going to keep, working with that. We also know that there definitely are legalities along what can and can't be done, or what people do and don't want to do with AI. And we definitely stand by the fact that we want AI to be sort of like a co-pilot to editorial. We don't want it to take over, we want it to help. It may help more on an assistant side with, organizing and searching for things. There may be some stuff editorially, but editing is still a craft. And, personally, I still think even if there's some AI portion to editing, there's still a human function that has to be done to approve that or to vet it and, still make changes, because will AI actually find emotion? Editing is tone, it's pace, it's emotion, and will AI and machine learning do that for you? But again, I still think that there's stuff in there. But to your question about what Avid's doing, again, we have the AI-powered script sync and phrase find, and we are building in panels or extensions in Media Composer with other companies and manufacturers that are creating AI tools like Quickture and Flawless are some really great examples of ways that AI is being developed by somebody else, but can now, with panels inside of Media Composer, you actually can access the tools without having to leave the application.
Yeah, well, the script sync and phrase find have been around for quite a while, right? I mean, it was just I don't want to, this is my ignorance here, in full display, but like a sort of like a glorified, Command F macro where it was hunting down things for you. That's where I think the strength of AI is really evident, is that it can find you. I remember we were talking to a documentary editor who had to Franken dialogue something, and they needed somebody to descend on a word. So they searched for that word with a period after it, so that and then they would search the footage to see they likely come down on the end of a sentence, and they were able to cut it together. It was just like, when it makes life easier for that, when it makes an artistic decision by a human easier, I can see the obvious advantages of it. But when you get to it into sort of like, hey, AI, cut me this version of this movie, make it look like, I don't know, Dylan Tishner edit, right? Can it consume enough information to like say this is likely what someone? There's just no way. It doesn't. So that I agree with you, and we've talked to many editors about this. The rhythms of editing, this sort of that sort of the gut feeling, you can't program that. And there's not enough information out there for a machine to ingest and then intuit that, or certainly not yet.
It is interesting, and I will, show a little bit in Media Composer with the Quick panel that actually will take, a interview and actually allow you to create an edit by topic from what somebody's talking about in the interview. Again, it may be a little choppy because it's making decisions on where it feels it should cut. So somebody's still going to need to go in and finesse it, but it does some really cool stuff. And again, it's helping. It's not taking away from the editor job, but it's going to cut out time. Time is money, and with budgets and with amounts of footage. I mean, in reality television, I mean, you're talking hundreds of hours of footage that just is stored somewhere. And I mean, there used to be like, little pods with loggers going through and logging every camera take and everything. And now technology, whether it's, script sync or phrase find or quick or these other tools, that's going to cut out time and let you at least spend more time in the creative process rather than some of the other minutia to, it's going to be a benefit. And a lot of editors say, I don't want it to take away what I'm doing, but I'm curious to see what it will do. So I'm sure if it helps them, they're going to be like, okay, I'll use this, I like the way this helps me.
Yeah. And I can see it being a very strong tool for the assemble edit, the sort of organizational side of editing, which might mean that entry-level jobs are redefined. A lot of people even coming out of our school were loggers, digitizers, sequencers, and reality TV and whatnot. If they are able to do more of it in the shift because they're using tools that help automate that, that's a potential solution. But I think everyone right now is just going like, oh my God, am I going to have a...
Yeah, it's one of those, there was a jump from linear to nonlinear, to digital. Mm-hmm. So there was a learning curve there. There's a learning curve every time there's a software update. When something changes and people are like, no, I'm going to stay with what I have because I'm afraid to move forward. It's something that even for assistants, I've talked to, a lot of schools and, I'm like, do there need to be more curriculum around AI for assistants? Because that's going to be something where at some point they're going to say, okay, do you know this application or can you help, using this? And a lot of the younger next generation editors, they're open to trying some of this stuff. Not to say that, the more seasoned editor isn't. Again, the seasoned editor and in the grand scheme of things, if you're working on a film, you have a lead editor, you have assistants, you have VFX, they're all supporting the lead editor who they're going in and actually just making the cut, telling the story, setting the tone, but everybody else is doing that extra work. Again, where is the AI going to help in the process? And I think it's still an open field at this point.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So would you like to show us some of these tools that you're working on? I don't want to jump the gun because I love talking about this stuff. I will say though, that the only Avid I ever owned was a Meridian. And I think it was maybe the best Avid.
Everybody says Meridian was was
It was
pretty.
the greatest machine, my gosh. And then of course it was worth nothing. Just because like they just upgraded everything. And what, Jason, we used some of the rack mount consoles as like pencil carriages. It was like at the point where it was
did.
like there was you couldn't sell it. So we were like, well, we're just going to keep it for the museum. And I've got my IS9 drives. It's like you go through this stuff thinking like this is it. It'll never end. And then it goes so much farther than you could possibly imagine.
Just it's technology and it's always going to change. I mean, our mags, the removable mag drives in Media Composer were bricks that were like 1 or 2 gigs. I mean, 128 gigs right here. I mean, it's insane how
128. Come on.
I know this. I think I just needed a little something to store some stuff, and this was just an easy one. But again, just the whole idea of, again, technology is going to change. It's going to be something different in, next year. Some other technology or something else is going to pop up and people are going to be like, oh my God, we got to check this out. We have to try it. But it's workflows, it's features. I mean, Avid's been out there for, again, over 30 years. And, it's not reliant on, all the hardware that it used to require anymore. It's just a software download. You put it on your laptop, and they're taking laptops to set to show directors cuts before they go back to their edit bay. They're actually working. Paul Matchless was on a rig on a car and Baby Driver, actually making cuts or doing editing while they were doing things just to make sure they got coverage. I mean, it's crazy.
But that's what you want. You don't want to have to wait to find out that you have to go back and reshoot and spend a bunch of money. And so
It's going to help the editors.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's like some of that real time problem solving is, that makes all the difference in the world.
So do you want me to just share my screen and I can start running through a whole bunch of features and functions with the update? All right, let me see what I got here.
Yes, just so that we're limited on time. You only have 6 hours. Only 6 hours to demo. Yeah.
All right, I'll try and squeeze in as much as I can. All right. Well, I am in the latest version of Media Composer 2025.6. So it was released in June of this year. We have another update coming up. And some things that I do like to start out with. I mean, I am on a single monitor, could be a laptop. I do have a large display here with my Mac Pro. It could be on multiple displays like a lot of editors have. But I do like to point out a big thing that just to offer for new people or people who are transitioning to the latest version, you can actually have, your bins, floating if you want. You can take your bins and you can lock them and dock them to your, UI. You can tab everything. But I'd also like to point out when you are going in to create a new user, we do have multiple ways to actually set up the latest versions of Media Composer. Media Composer is where everything is locked and docked, and you can actually, move all your panels and things, but it's a nice, clean way to have your project, your bins, your composer window, and your timeline locked in. We have Media Composer Classic, and this is more for people who are moving from older versions of Media Composer that still like all of their bins to float, everything to float just like it did in older versions. You could still go in and change that and lock things and dock them, but it's as a starter to give everybody sort of the classic look to Media Composer. And what's also cool is transitioning from Adobe Premiere. There are people who are, moving from Premiere to Media Composer who, like to have the look of the UI to look like Premiere. The keyboard changes to a Premiere default keyboard, but it's Media Composer. So you're in Avid, but the look and feel of the UI for Media Composer is Adobe Premiere. And again, you can still customize and do it, but we want people to make it easier for people to transition from Premiere into Avid. And on a side note, you even have in your keyboard settings a keyboard for Resolve. So you could have a Resolve keyboard, you could have a Media Composer keyboard, and you could have a Premiere default keyboard. So I just like to throw that out there for people who are like, either transitioning or new to Media Composer. And if you have any questions while I'm going through this, because I can't see your faces at this time, feel free to jump in.
I'm smiling because Premiere had their Final Cut 7 layout after, it's 10 because there was a ton of transitioning over. I think people didn't know where. All the Avid people were like, I'm going back to Avid. I'm never leaving Avid again. I'm sorry I left. And then the Premiere people were like, what do I do? And so I love that Avid is sort of making it, like let's give you an interface that you understand or that you're used to, and then you can customize it from there. And we do a lot of like Avid for Premiere Editor classes too. So
excellent. I mean, it's as I tell people, Avid is dominant with feature film and television. The project sharing and bin locking is just something that nobody else can match at this point. You talk to the editors of The Voice, 30-some editors all around the world, massive amounts of footage, everything done in Media Composer from ingest to finish. Big Brother, any Marvel film, it's shared projects and bin locking are just the way that we work. I mean, Nexus is the heart of editorial. Avid's out there. You can't say that you can't edit on other platforms, but the majority of workflows, people being able to share and work is just, Avid just, nobody else can hold a candle to what Avid can do. What I do want to point out here is, again, you have your composer window. You can change all of your panels, redesign it. You can change the different interface. You can customize this and save it to your user setting. Bins here, what I like to show is what we recently did. These are just audio clips. And with the audio, you have, if I double click, the source window now displays, if it's audio only, you see the audio waveforms, which is really kind of cool. You see the different tracks here. If I disable or mute or solo on the source side, you'll see that it'll actually only show whatever you're muting or soloing. If I bring Eric back up, you can switch to see his waveform. So if you want to see the waveform and you have video, you can actually switch that on and off to be able to go in and define, maybe a portion of the audio. But the cool thing here also is if I have audio displayed in the source side, if I go to the bin, the timeline here, my timeline settings, oh, that's weird. There's something in Zoom that has a little annotate that's covering my...
It is always covering the thing you want to work on.
Right, it's in the lower left, so I just moved that up. So I'm going to go in and say, show source track names. And what you'll see is the names of my source clips in the audio are now displayed here.
Oh, nice.
So if you have any, specific names, it's actually just nice to be able to see that, and you can, of course, turn that on and off. But being able to go in and see the audio waveforms is actually something that's a recent development. I believe it was the end of last year to be able to see that. Also, when you have audio in your timeline and go to your fast menu in the timeline, there are different audio waveform options. You have your source levels, you have your output levels. So if the output levels are changed, the waveform will be reflected in your timeline. And you also have, full height depending on what's there. You can see that the audio is actually a little lower on the interviews, but when I said full height, that actually brought that up so you can at least get a better determination of where the audio is on your waveform. So that's something that's relatively new as well.
Probably one of the smartest things I've ever done for my career. It gave me all the tools that I needed to be able to jump into a new career. Getting myself into a mindset, thinking like an editor, and being around people that I can talk to on that level was really invaluable to me.
A lot of the things that I learned from that class, I still think about.
I loved the classroom. I loved the computer stations. We built a sense of community.
And it also instills a lot of confidence in you to take that and go out into the world.
After I took the class, I felt very prepared to take the next step.
I owe Manhattan Edit Workshop the career that I have right now.
Things have been going great, and I really have the Manhattan Edit Workshop to thank for that.
All right, let's take a look at some other fun stuff here. Things that we introduced when we talked about AI and script sync and phrase find. Of course, you do have your phrase find option where you can go in and type in a word and it will find every clip where somebody says that word. Great for frankenbiting, dialogue or finding that word that you need to cut in. But we also have, here we have Eric Kissack, the editor, Emmy-winning editor of the studio. And if I go to right-click and go to transcript, I can select create script from clip. Now you do still have script sync and script-based editing, but with the new AI-powered script sync and phrase find, this actually will create a script type view of Eric's interview, and you'll see every part of what he's being said. And this is roughly like a 40 or 50-minute interview that now has been transcribed. And
what's the processing time on transcribing, or is it doing it in the background and by the time it's all loaded, it's already there?
If you choose to do a transcription, I mean, it will do it in the background whenever you introduce media into your project. But, I think it only took like maybe a few minutes for a 40-minute clip.
What are you gonna? It's like there's no process now where it's like, oh, I guess we have to go get lunch because it's rendering.
Oh, I'm sure there's something. But yeah, to your point, just with processing power and technology, a lot of stuff has been sped up. Exporting quick times, transcoding, a lot has been sped up, and there is some stuff you can do in the background. To that point, what I do like to mention, oops, I forgot what I just shut, is if I bring up open up my project window, you'll see here on the far right, transcription off, no clips to transcribe, transcribed. You can actually decide what bins you want to have transcription, available on. And that's going to cut down on processing power as well, because if you have, just stock footage, there's no need to transcribe that or have it transcribe in the background. So you'll see this diner footage at 5K, I turned off transcription. The Emmy nominees, yes, I want to transcribe those, and they're transcribed. If they were being transcribed in the background, you'd see a percentage here of how much is transcribed. And if I was to link immediately to a clip, I could click on it, click transcribe, and or the transcript tool, if it needed transcription, it would have a button to say transcribe. If it was already transcribed, the transcription would pop right up. But again, right click, exclude bin from transcription, and now it's not going to have to process that bin for transcription. So we want to help out, in the process. But again, once you have the script here, if I want to go to the part where he says, so I really genuinely didn't know, if I double click, it takes me right to.
Good job. So I really genuinely didn't know that people.
Which is a nice way to search. Again, you have phrase find where you can actually type in the word, but what's really cool, and this is another new function to the phrase find option, is the transcript tool. So under tools, transcript tool. And what you have is the source clip of Eric. This is Eric's interview, all transcribed. And if I click on any word, it actually takes me.
It's like literally like, and he quickly caches himself, and you can only see it for like a second, but if you.
And we now have a complete transcription of his interview that I could search. If I want to find where he's talking about editing, you can step through any time he says it, which is great. Again, you can click if I turn that off, if I turn off the ganging button here, it's not going to jump if you just want to do sort of like a little preview or view through anything without it jumping. But being able to go in and see the written word, search for it is amazing. And watch this. If I want to take the part where he says, Media Composer, as far as I'm concerned, is the standard. I didn't intentionally get to that point, but I am going to.
What a coincidence.
Exactly. I could have searched for Media Composer. So if I highlight that sentence, it's actually marking that on the clip.
Shut up.
If I drop that in, actually, let me turn off the.
So you can edit by highlighting and just.
It actually took that. Media Composer, as far as I'm concerned, is the standard.
Right. So what is it like? So yeah, it takes the in and out, and then how do you edit it into the timeline from the transcript?
You could actually click and drag from the source clip, or hit the insert or overwrite button, and it'll drop it right in.
Okay.
That's right.
That's crazy. You used to have notes. I remember working on a documentary, these guys, and the directors knew every minute of their 103 whatever tapes that they had.
Yeah.
And I had to have them there because I couldn't scrub through everything to find what they needed. And they were like, oh, I think he talks about this there in tape, 72. And like, they just, because they were there for everything, they had that access. And this is like, not only is this better, but like, then it's, if they have multiple instances where they talk about something for you to cut together a montage, or, it's really kind of insane.
Imagine the amount of time that this has taken out of, again, like you said, all of the searching, or all the transcription, because this is done inside of Media Composer. This is not going to the cloud for all the transcription. This is done in the system. We support over 20 languages. And if I bring in another clip, let's bring in Tim Roach, who edited Welcome to Wrexham, but he also edited, the recent Fantastic Four. The transcript tool now changes to his interview.
I would say the tool I use most
is trim. Now it says speaker 2 because, of course, it's not identifying. If I right click on speaker 2, I could say rename and say that's Tim. Right. It's now going to go through and change all of speaker 2 to be Tim. I'm speaker 1 because I did the interview, but you can export that transcript.
Is it pretty accurate? Like I know some transcribers, it's like you still have to go through and kind of.
Yeah, I think you may have noticed he was talking about, something catches, but it typed caches, and also Nexus is spelt wrong. I think we're working on ways that you can go in and edit the transcript, but basically if you were just using that just for searching, I think it's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
So you see Tim now changed. I could go in, and if I go to the fast menu, there's create strip from clip, export transcript, delete transcript if you needed to reprocess it, show time code, show speaker. So if you say, I don't want to see time code, it takes that away. So again, just how do you want to view that? And you can set the font if you don't like that. And transcript settings, this is actually really cool because we support 21 languages, so it will actually do a transcription in different languages. But if you have somebody who's French with a French accent who's speaking English, how does it know what language to use for the transcription? And this is where you give it a little language hint and say, force it to be English. So, that was a big feature request that we put in there. Now, one thing I want to do here is show something else. This has been a feature that we've had in there for a while, but the music is really loud, so you can't hear the underneath there. So I love to do a little plug for audio ducking, which a lot of people didn't know was even in the software. It's a button right here, or you could right click and say audio ducking, choose the dialogue tracks, choose the music track, click on duck, and it actually keyframes the audio down when they're speaking. Now, I guess there's enough space in between. If I was to take, this edit and move it over, maybe this one a little closer here, I wonder if it'll actually give me a little more keyframes if I do audio ducking again. Yep, you can see it actually adds the keyframes to go up and down. So automatically,
I work in unscripted, so we're not looking to.
So just a really easy way to pod down the audio so you can hear interviews.
Does it have a preset amount of, I mean, I guess it's based on what's between the interviews, right? How much space is there? Because sometimes it's not going to do it. It just leaves it down.
Correct.
But does it always have a standard amount of sort of the keyframe duration as it goes from the peak to the duck? Is it like preset to 1 second and you can modify? You're showing me that you can modify it, aren't you?
Yeah, you'll see when you open up or do audio ducking, you do have the advanced here, which is closed by default, but you can go in and modify any of the thresholds or hold times to actually change how it ramps, what the levels are. And you could save that setting. And you could also use marks. So if there's only a portion of the sequence that you want to have it do the audio ducking on, you can mark it in and out. It'll only do it on that portion.
Wow. Okay.
So what I want to show as well here, I have a little, I had this poem. The poem I actually sent through AI to go in and generate using a voice, and I put music underneath.
In the heart of wanderlust, love finds its grace.
Well, actually, because what I want to do before I do this other little trick is if I am in the transcript tool, I'm currently looking at the source clip, but if you're familiar with this button right here in the sequence, this switches the sequence or the transcript to go from the source to the record side. So now if I click here.
So the tools that I mostly use in AI, sometimes AI transcription.
So you'll see it turned blue because we're now on the record side.
Yep.
And just like I could go in and mark by clicking and dragging a portion of the source, I could say, well, the comedy category, it was an entire CGI build. If I select here, it's marking the in and out from the sequence, and I can simply cut that out.
Shut up. This is like, you're making it too easy.
You want to wait for renders, don't you?
Well, I want you. The feature request I have is called coffee break, and it's a render. It's a fake render window that you can set a duration on, and it'll just pop up on top of the screen, so you can be like, "Oh, this is going to take 20 minutes. We should probably." Do that. And it's doing nothing. It's doing nothing but giving you like a minute to get up and walk around. But so I do have a question though. When you cut it out of that transcript is based on the sequence. If you cut the text out of the transcript to cut the sequence down, it's not eliminating it from the master transcript. It's only eliminating it from that version of metadata collection that has to do with the sequence.
Exactly. So you still have the source footage. It's just cutting it from the sequence portion.
Because I can see people being afraid. They're like, "Oh my God, I just cut my transcript down."
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. You're smarter than that.
I also have a question.
It's the engineers. I just show the stuff. There's a lot smarter people than me.
I have a question, Michael. Like when you're, say you have footage that's someone speaking in Spanish, you're saying that so it can give me that transcribed in English so I could cut it like that?
That's translation, which, I think we're working on.
Okay.
So we don't translate. What I tell people is do the transcription in the native language.
Yeah.
Copy and paste that into Google Translate, and then you can cut that back in and do a title on it. That's the current workaround. It's funny. I know you were mentioning about, the coffee break. Was it Lightworks? Besides having the shark, I remember long ago there was a piece of software that when it rendered, an icon came up of a cup of coffee.
Oh, really? That's awesome. No,
was it Lightworks? I forget what it was. Anyway,
I don't know.
So here I have my little, poem.
Longer, forevermore, through bustling markets.
And I could have done this with the editor sequence as well, but if I go into transcript tool, right now, because I only have Tim on the source side, if I didn't have anything here, I'd have nothing in the transcript window. But if I switch that to be the sequence side, that's a transcription, which if I go to the fast menu for the transcript tool, export subcap. Now I have music on 3 and 4. I have the dialogue on A1 and A2. I hit OK. Wait, that wasn't export. Sorry, wrong thing. We may have to edit this. If I go to here, yes, there it is. Sorry, not export subcap. It was doing what I told it to do. I want to create subcap. I now have subcaps from the transcription, subtitles on my sequence.
In bustling cities and tranquil shores, their love grows stronger, forevermore, through bustling markets and...
Used to be a multi-step process, now one click.
Yep. Yeah, it's like, I mean, look, it's not replacing, people need to do this.
Right.
You're just making it infinitely easier for people to do it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, I wish I was coming up as an editor now. Boy, this is a lot better than pulling, audio cards out of the back of the machine and reseating them. And I mean, that was fun too, but this is really fun.
These are options. So this is the script sync option and phrase find option. The transcript tool is the phrase find option. If you have Media Composer Ultimate, it's included in the software. Okay. So we have basic Media Composer and Media Composer Ultimate. Another thing I want to show is something new we have with a proxy workflow. Now you could go in and transcode your media into DNX or ProRes or whatever format you want to work with. But I want to go to this sequence right here. Now, what I have is just some diner footage, some stock footage. I'll go ahead and just drop one of the clips in here. I've linked to it. So just the standard linking in Media Composer, but these are 5K clips. So if I reveal the file and bring it up, this is just some stock footage. And you'll see that the current size, it's not coming up. It's not, oh yeah, it is 5K. So 5120 by 3000. So I've linked to that in Media Composer. Now, depending on, we don't know what, computers everybody's on. We don't know what, drives people are working with. You may or may not be able to play it. Actually, it's playing pretty well here. But when you start, adding effects and putting a lot of clips in, you may tend to get sort of stutter. You'll see here in the sequence, when I try scrubbing through it, it's a little stuttered, right?
Yeah.
What you'll see in the bin is there are, just move this, type that in. Some of the clips have an orange color on them. What that means is there have been proxy files created on those clips. So if I load in this clip right here, you can see scrubbing it is a little stuttered. If I right click on the play button, I want to play the proxy. I prefer to play the proxy on that. It's the exact same clip. We make a copy of it that's sort of a zero relink to the other one. And now I'm scrubbing through the proxy file that I could work with and edit. Also notice in the sequence, several of the clips turned orange because those have proxy files created for them.
Now, if you want to create proxies of the other two, you just select them and right click them in the sequence or in the bin?
Either or. I could do the sequence, I could do the bin. I'm going to select all of these. I'm going to say create proxy, which could be in the background or not. So it's now creating proxies. We will see number one under the proxy video column when they're done. That will populate with the codec that was used for the proxy. And then those will turn orange as well. Any clip linked, you see they all turned orange. So now I have proxies for all of them. The idea is I can edit. It's a little more efficient, even though it's 5K media, but at any point I could right click, go back to the high res, apply any finishing, any effects, and export, and being able to switch back and forth with a zero relink has basically, again, spread up the process. You're not having to go through the other relink process to relink to transcoded media or whatever high res. You still have that workflow, and a lot of people still do it, But if there are times that, you're getting just a bunch of footage and maybe you're an island and you're working by yourself and you don't have the most powerful computer, proxy everything, work with it. It creates a proxy folder in the Avid Media files that it's utilizing for this to be able to work. And again, you just right click, proxy or high res. You can just see how fast it's switching between.
It's like a light switch, honestly. It's like, that's great, because you're right. I mean, you probably have a very powerful computer at your disposal, I would assume.
It's not too bad.
Yeah, but not everybody, it's not everybody's got that kind of horsepower. And how do you judge and edit when you can't play the footage, right?
Exactly. And a couple other things I just want to throw out, and then if you have any other questions or anything, because again, I could spend all day going through, lots of things here.
Rafi said you only have 6 hours. So
I think I'm down to
only 6 hours, though. Only 6 hours.
We did add, if people haven't seen or know about this, when you go to export, you can export now a ProTools session. So we have a complete round trip now. So if you are trying to send your sequences to ProTools to your sound team, you'll see ProTools session. The ProTools session, you can choose markers, because ProTools will read any markers that are there, and we added more markers to be more aligned with ProTools. You can export a mix down of your video, so that's going to be embedded with the ProTools session, as well as choosing the codec family that you want. And if you are on a PC, we do create ProRes on PCs now. So it does create an actual PTX file, which a ProTools system can open up. Everything's brought over, even plugins. And we now can round trip, where ProTools can write a .ptxm, a Media Composer compatible file that you can click and drag into a bin in Media Composer, and it brings in the ProTools composition, which is nice. So something people have been asking for a long time.
Okay.
Also, we talked a little bit about AI, and I want to bring up the way we work with partners or extensions in Media Composer. And if you go on and Google Media Composer panels directory, panel SDK, Software Developers Kit directory, we have several people who are building. I wouldn't say several. We have probably over 200 partners building panels that will be available inside of Media Composer. And when this is done and it gets actually implemented under tools, you will see the partner panels listed here. And the nice thing about this is you don't have to leave Media Composer to access these. This will be anything from SpectraLogic to I can't even think of for ingest. We have, Streamwell, Quickture, Jumper, Flawless, Extreme Music, Acclaim, Marvin Jr. for VFX turnovers, Iceon, that's Acclaim right there, Iceon Studio. And just to highlight one of them, at least to show you how it's implemented, is if I have an interview or a series of interviews, again, I have Susan Vale here, the editor of Hacks. I have Jennifer Roth, the editor of Queer Eye. We did some really great interviews with the Emmy-nominated editors that we have on a website. But I'm going to take their interviews. I could have gone through the transcription tool, and you saw the power of that. But if you want to take it even further, I'm going to go to the Quickture panel inside of Media Composer. So any of these panels, when you select them, you'll see that they would just pop up inside of Media Composer, and they're going to access the functionality of the partner who's built the application. So if I go and highlight Susan right here, it already processed the interview. And the cool thing about Quickture is it takes the transcription to the next level. We talked about, finding emotion or being able to search for topics. What you'll see here is Susan's interview is, if I bring it up in here, if I click in summary, this is giving me a summary of her over hour-long interview. It was like an hour and a half. So an interview with Susan Vale, Emmy-nominated editor for the show Hacks. She emphasizes the importance of music and timing and editing, sharing her experience. She reflects on her career. The interview provides detailed look at intricacies. This is all done inside of QuickTure. If I open up the transcript portion, it actually breaks down by topic the process of selecting the best takes, technical approach to assembling montage scenes, challenges in editing specific scenes, and hacks. And if you point to the left side here, it tells you different beat scores. So the biographical value is, pretty high with 7. Emotionally, maybe she, had a little inflection when she was speaking.
Who's evaluating that?
That's all QuickTure. That's all the AI technology that they put into this. Was she funny? Yeah, on a level 3. And if I open up the challenges part where she's talking about the scene with Gene Smart and Carol Burnett, here's the breakdown of that scene where, you now can go in and click on the time codes.
Is it finding it there?
But it was a fun and amazing scene because they had such respect for each other in the scene.
So at that point, you can then take that scene or that what you want, and you can say, all right, I want an auto edit from that. I only want Susan, so take away me, who's doing the interviewer, and the crew that may have been talking in the background. And it's telling me that there is 1 hour and 19 minutes of good editable footage of her. But I want a 10-minute cut down auto edit of her interview. It's now going to take the best of everything and cut a sequence for me that's 10 minutes long. It's going to take a little while. So
there's your coffee break right there.
There you go. This is reaching out to the QuickTure application to do this, but what it does is pretty, amazing. Again, it's going to create an edit, but somebody's still going to have to go in and check it. They're still going to have to go in and, decide what they do and don't want. But the cool thing about this as well is this is just Susan's interview. If I had gone in and taken all 20 interviews that we did with the Emmy nominees and said, take all of them and just give me a 10-minute cut of all of them talking about what they like best about editing, it would give me a cut and actually cut in everybody and create a sequence.
Right. So that's the real beauty of it, is that it can make some, I don't want to call them non-essential decisions, but it can give you a really good start. Sometimes people think it's a lot easier to re-edit than to edit itself, like the putting it together part. And so if you're going back and saying, all right, this is great, but the order's not terrific, or, I don't need all of these instances. You've got, one of these people is in it too many times. I can go back and, you can sort of do that work. That's, it's also editing. It's just not the assembling.
And by the way, here it is.
Oh boy. It needs to take longer, Michael.
So let me just take off the data track, which was on the clip there. And you'll see that it actually gives me a breakdown of it. It's actually named Susan QE, so QuickTure Edit number 1. Her introduction, her challenges, the art of montage. So you can still see what is in her interview. But if I close that, you'll see this is just over 10 minutes of her talking, highlighting specific stuff, but just basically giving me a nice cut. And it's even telling me the introduction of Susan. There are markers telling me about which the challenges.
Oh, wow.
Art of the montage.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you wanted to ramp up her humor score and make this a funnier interview, could you tell it to use 7 or above in the humor score value to cut the 10-minute sequence?
Yes.
You're going to say yes. Of course you are.
There actually is a portion of this that says give a guided edit. And if you guide it, let's take this here, guided edit. You can actually give it ask questions about the footage, give notes, and say, give me a 5-minute edit starting off with a funny story leading into something else.
Right. So there's a job out there for someone who's good at telling Quickture how to pull that stuff and to sculpt, right? Like you're verbally editing, because the better you describe what you want, the closer you're going to get to something that you can use without too much tweaking.
I mean, it's again, it's going to be something that, it's a tool to enhance the editorial process. And it's something that, people will learn. And Quickture is evolving. They're doing all sorts of updates. Flawless is another one. Flawless is an amazing tool which does performance dubbing. And if you have a scene where somebody's talking and saying something and you're like, wait a minute, I don't like what they say, but let's just get them on a phone or just re-saying their line, but we don't have time to get them to come in to reshoot. It'll take the audio and the video and it'll resync up the lips using AI technology to make it look like they're delivering the new line.
Wow. Now there might be some issues around that one. Depending on where you're working, I think they might say you're not manipulating speakers. Like that's the sort of, that crosses that sort of, moving line in
Correct.
the sand. But I could see it doing like, all right, I love take 2 visually, but the audio stinks. I want to find another take. So let's audition all the other 4 takes to see which piece of audio fits in, and then it'll resize it and retime it to fit in. Or will it won't move, it won't fix the video, it'll adjust the audio.
Oh, it fixes the video. It actually, depending on what you're doing, the idea is if you have, if you want to cut in a pause where somebody didn't put in a pause, it'll actually stop the lips from moving and actually adjust it using AI technology with a mask so that it looks like they actually did a natural pause. If you had, and one thing, and you mentioned the whole legality thing, there is artist rights that has to be approved through, I think it's the organization that is passed through SAG-AFTRA as well, where the artist has to approve the use of Flawless before it actually can go through.
Right.
So, but they did a feature film called, I think, sorry if I get the name wrong, Above the Skies. It was a Swedish film that they redubbed completely in English, but they ran it through Flawless, which it took some time. There's a deep editor, there's a whole application that does this, but it actually took the actors, the Swedish actors, and made it look like they were all speaking English.
This was in the morning show. That was part of their trick in season 4, was that they were going to do Olympics coverage in every language by AI manipulation on the hosts. Let me ask you one important question. Since we're running low on time, can you come back and show us more? Because it seems like there's much more to look at here. And I don't want to cut you off without the promise that you can do a part 2 for us, because this is really wild.
I mean, there's so much more. And if what I'd like to do, if it's something, especially with the partner panels, bring in the partners to come in and show their technology, because I'm sure they could dive into it a lot more than I could, because again, I'm glossing over a lot of it. And there's so many partners. I'm sure Flawless would love to talk, even Quickture, because I'm sure there's new stuff that I wasn't even getting into that they have audio. There's a whole world that's now opened up with the extensions and partner panels within Media Composer, beyond the stuff that's in the software itself. I mean, again, I could spend hours going on, so many more tools.
It's really amazing how fast 6 hours goes.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I just wanted to thank you, Michael Krulik, for joining us today. As everyone knows, we were sponsored by Avid today. There's the Avid pillow that you should get at your local Amazon store, your Avid couch. Yes. And then there's your wall art that's available also at avid.com. Anyway, Michael Krulik, thank you so much for joining us today. Josh and Jason Banky, always a pleasure. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, visit our website, check out the software, and absolutely, we are going to have you back, Michael, for a part 2 because 6 hours just goes by.
The other thing is, I will say, coming out, it looks like you really love what you do. And we usually talk about people and their jobs, and it's like it's more about you than the work. But clearly, like there's passion here. I hope you come back and lead us through more of this because it really seems like you love what you do.
I do. I love it. I love the software, and again, I love the people who use it and the amazing stuff that they do. So, and amazing people who teach it. So, thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you very much.